Well, hello, seekers. Welcome back to Bhagavad Gita as it is in 2020. This is the final episode, that is the Yoga of Liberation through the path of knowledge and self surrender. In our previous episode, we studied the meaning and intention of uttering Om, Tat, and Sat, explained in detail by Sri Krishna what is truth, what is consciousness, and what is bliss. A conscious and a truthful attempt towards bliss will definitely take you to the path of the yoga of liberation through knowledge and self-surrender. In today's episode, we will take the example of a great mathematician, Srinivasa Ramanujan, who was born on 22nd of December 1887. Today is his 133rd birth anniversary. Every year on 22nd of December, India celebrates National Mathematics Day in honor of his legacy. His legacy is of no small feat. Having no formal training in pure mathematics, he made substantial contribution towards mathematical analysis, number theory, infinite theory, continued fraction, including solution to the mathematical problems then considered unsolved. In his initial times, he developed his own mathematical research in total isolation. Died on April 26, 1920 at a mere age of 32. During his short life, Ramanujana independently compiled nearly 3,900 results, mostly identities and equations. Many were completed through his novel origin, highly unconventional results such as Ramanujana prime, Ramanujana theta function, partition formula, and Mach theta functions. Without any help from any other mathematician, he started postal partition with English mathematician G. H. Hardy at the University of Cambridge in England. Recognizing his extraordinary work, Hardy arranged his travel to Cambridge. He became one of the youngest fellow of the Royal Society and only the second Indian member and the first Indian to be elected as a fellow of Trinity College, Cambridge. Of his original letters, Hardy states that his single look was enough to show they could be written only by a mathematician of a highest caliber, comparing Ramanujana to the mathematical geniuses such as Euler and Jacobi. A deeply religious Hindu, Ramanujan credited all his substantial mathematical capabilities to divinity. He said mathematical knowledge he displayed was revealed to him by his family goddess Namagiri Thayara. He once said, "An equation for me has no meaning unless it's expressed through the thought of God." Relinquishing fruits of all his actions, he abandoned everything to perform his duty without any attachment. His body was a door towards the contribution to the world. Him being the knower of mathematics, the knowledge of mathematics itself, and the objective of producing the quality work led him to motivate his actions. Such type of actions are sattvika form that are driven by your intellect. Understanding your intellect is the key step out of the bondage. Your intellect tells you what is your dharma, and once you start walking on the path of your dharma, you achieve the liberation through the knowledge and through self-surrender. Arjuna said, "O mighty arm Shri Krishna, O inner controller of all, O slay of Kesi, I wish to know severely the truth of sannyasa and tyaga." Shri Krishna said, "Some sages understand sannyas as giving up of all actions motivated by desires, and the wise declare that tyaga consists in relinquishing the fruits of all actions. Some wise men declare that all actions contain a measure of evil and therefore worth giving up, while others say that acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance are not to be given up. Of sannyasa and tyaga, first hear my conclusion on the subject of renunciation, that is tyaga. Arjuna, for renunciation, O tiger among men, being declared to be as three kinds, sattvika, rajasika, and tamasika. Acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance are not worth giving up. They must be performed. For sacrifice, charity, and penance, all these are purifier of a wise man. Hence, these acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance, all other acts of duty too, must be performed without any attachment and expectation of reward. This is my well considered and supreme verdict, O Arjuna." prohibited acts, and those that are motivated by desire should no doubt be given up. But this is not advisable to abandon a prescribed duty. Such abandonment through ignorance has been declared as tamasika. Should anyone give up his duties for the fear of physical strain, thinking that all actions are verily painful? Practicing such rajasika form of renunciation, he does not reap the fruits of renunciation. A prescribed duty which is performed simply because it has to be performed, giving up attachments and fruit, that alone has been recognized as the sattvika form of renunciation. He who has neither aversion for action which is leading to bondage, nor attachment to that which is conductive to blessedness with the quality of goodness, he has all his doubts resolved, is an intelligent, a man of true resolution. Since all actions cannot be given up in their entirety by anyone possessing a body, he alone who renounces the fruits of actions is called the man of renunciation. Agreeable, disagreeable, and mixed threefold indeed is the fruit that occurs after the death from the actions of the unrenouncing, but there is none whatsoever for those who have renounced. In the branch of learning known as Sankhya, which is prescribed as means for neutralization of all actions, the five factors have been mentioned as a contributory to the accomplishment of all actions known to them. For me, Arjuna, the following are the factors operating towards the accomplishment of action: the body and the doer, the organ of different kinds and different functions of manifold kinds, and the fifth is Devya or destiny. These five are the contributory causes of whatever actions, right or wrong, man performs with the mind, speech, and body. Notwithstanding this, however, he who is having an impure mind regards the absolute taintless self alone as the doer. Such a man of perverse understanding does not view what is right. He whose mind is free from the senses of doership and whose reason is not affected by worldly objects and activities does not really kill, even having killed all these people, nor does any sin occur to him. The knower, knowledge, and the object of knowledge, these three motivate action. Even though the doer, the organ, and the activity, these are the three constituents of the action. In the branch of knowledge dealing with the gunas or the modes of prakriti, knowledge and action as well as the doer have been declared to be the three kinds according to the guna which predominantly in each. Hear them out, O Arjuna. That by which man perceives one imperishable divine existence as undivided and equally present in all individual beings, know that knowledge is to be sattvika. The knowledge by which man cognizes many existence of various kinds as apart from one another in all beings, known that knowledge is to be rajasika. Again, the knowledge which clings to one's body as if it were to be the whole and which is irrational, has no real grasp of truth and is trivial, has been declared as tamasika. That is, the knowledge only cling to a body, not to the soul. That action which is ordained by the scriptures and is not accompanied by the sense of doership and has been done without any partiality or prejudice by one who seeks no return is called sattvika. That action, however, which involves much strain and is performed by one who seeks enjoyment or by man who is full of egotism, has been spoken to be as rajasika. That action which is undertaken through sheer ignorance without regard to consequences or loss to oneself, injury to others, and one's own resourcefulness is declared as tamasika. Free from attachment, unegoistic, endowed with firmness and zeal, unswayed by success and failure. Such a doer is said to be Satvika. The doer who is full of attachment, seeks the fruit of actions and is greedy, and who is oppressive by nature and of impure conduct and is affected by the joy and sorrow, has been called Rajasika, lacking the required self control, uncultured, arrogant, deceitful, inclined to rob others or their livelihoods, slothful, despondent, and procrastinating. Such a doer is called Tamasika. Now, here, Arjuna, the threefold division based on the predominance of each guna of understanding, which is buddhi, and firmness, that is dhriti, which I shall explain in detail one by one. The intellect, which correctly determines the path of activity and renunciation, what ought to be done and what should not be done, what is fear and what is fearlessness, and what is bondage and what is liberation. That intellect is Satvika, the intellect by which man does not truly perceive what is dharma and what is adharma, what owes to be done and what should not be done. That intellect is Rajasika, the intellect which imagines even adharma to be dharma and sees all other things upside down, wrapped in ignorance. That intellect is Tamasika, O Arjuna. The unwavering firmness by which man controls through the yoga of meditation the functions of mind, the viral air, and the senses, the firmness, Arjuna, that is Satvika. The firmness, dhriti, however, by which a man seeking a reward for his actions clutches with extreme fondness and virtues, earthly possessions, and worldly enjoyments, that firmness, that is dhriti, is said to be Rajasika, O Arjuna. The dhriti by which an evil minded person does not give up sleep, fear, anxiety, sorrow, and vanity as well, that firmness is Tamasika. Now, hear from me the threefold joy as well, that in which the striver finds the enjoyment through the practice of adoration, meditation, and service to God, and whereby he reaches the end of sorrow. Such a joy, through appearing as poison in the beginning, tastes like nectar in the end. Hence, that joy, born as it is of the placidity of mind through about the meditation on God, has been declared as Satvika. The delight which follows from the contact of senses with their objects is eventually poison like. Even though appearing at first like a nectar, it is later been spoken as of Rajasika. That which stupefies the self during its enjoyment as well as in the end, derived from sleep, indolence, and obscene error, such delight has been called Tamasika. There is no being on earth or even among gods in heaven or anywhere else who is free from these three gunas born of Prakriti. The duty of the Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas, and the Vaishnavas, as well as of the Shudras, has been assigned according to their inborn qualities, O Arjuna. Subjugating of the mind and senses, enduring hardships for the discharge of one's sacred obligation, external and internal purity, forgiving the faults of others, straightness of mind, senses, and behavior, belief in the Vedas and other scriptures, God and life after death, and study of teaching of any other Vedas or other scriptures, and realization of the truth relating to God. All these constitute the natural duties of a Brahmana, that is, a learned man. Heroism, fearlessness, firmness, diligence, and dauntingness in battle, bestowing gifts and lordliness. All these constitutes the natural duty of a Kshatriya, that is, a warrior. Agriculture, rearing of cows, and honest exchange of merchandise. These constitutes the natural duty of a Vaishya, a member of a trading class, and services of the other classes is the natural duty even of a Shudra, a member of a laboring class. Keenly devoted to his own natural duty, a man attains the highest perfection in the shape of God realization. Here, the modes of performance whereby the man engaged in his inborn duty reaches that highest consummation by worshipping Him from whom all beings come into being and by whom the whole universe is pervaded. Through the performance of his own natural duties, a man attains the highest perfection. Better is one's own duty, even though devoid of merit, that has the duty of another well performed. For performing the duty ordained by his own nature, man does not incur sin. Therefore, O Arjuna, one should not relinquish one's innate duty, even though it has a measure of evil. Of all undertakings are the best by some evil, as is the fire covered by the smoke. He whose intellect is unattached everywhere, whose thirst for enjoyment has also disappeared, and who has subdued his mind, reaches the thorough Sankhya Yoga, the path of knowledge, the consummation of actionlessness. Arjuna, know from me only briefly the process through which the man has attained the actionlessness, which is the highest consummation of Jnana Yoga. The path of knowledge reaches Brahma, endowed by the untarnished intellect and partaking of light, sattvic and regulated diet, living in a lonely and undefiled place, having rejected sound and other objects of senses, having controlled the mind, speech, and body by restraining the mind and senses through the firmness of sattvic type, taking a resolute stand on dispassion, after having completely got rid of attraction and aversion and remaining ever devoted to the yoga of meditation, having given up egoism, violence, arrogance, lust, anger, and luxuries, devoid of all the feelings of myam and tranquil of heart, such a man becomes qualified for oneness with Brahma, one who is truly conscious and bliss, established in the identity with Brahma, one who is truly conscious and bliss, and cheerful in mind. The Sankhya Yogi no longer grieves nor craves for anything. A man of all beings, such a yogi attains the supreme devotion to me. Through that supreme devotion, he comes to me, known in reality, what and who am I, and thereafter, knowing me truly, he completely merges into my being. The Karma Yogi, however, who depends on me, attains by my grace the eternal imperishable state, even though performing all actions, mentally dedicating all your actions to me and taking recourse to the yoga in form of ever-mindedness, be solely devoted to me and constantly fix your mind onto me. With your mind thus devoted to me, you shall overcome all the difficulties by my grace. But if from self-conceit you do not care to listen me, you will be lost. If taking your stand on egoism, you think I will not fight, vain is the resolve of yours your nature will drive to your actions. That action too, which you are not willing to undertake, through ignorance you will perform the performance, bound by your own duty, born to your own nature. Arjuna, God abides in the heart of all creatures, causing them to resolve according to their karma by his elusive power, that is Maya, as thought to be mounted on a machine. Take refuge in Him, Him alone, with all your being. By His merge grace you will attain supreme peace and the eternal abode. Thus, with this wisdom more profound that all profundities being imparted to you by me, deeply pondering over it, now do as you like to do. Hear me again, my supremely profound words, the most ascetic of all truths, as you are extremely dear to me. Therefore, I shall give you this salutary advice for your own good. Give your mind to me, be devoted to me, worship me, and bow me. Doing so, you will come to me alone. I truly promise you, for you are exceptionally dear to me, reciting all your duties to me. The all powerful and all supporting Lord, take refuge in me alone. I shall absolve all your sins. This secret gospel of Bhagavad Gita should never be imparted to a man who lacks the austerity, nor to him who is wanting in devotion, nor even to him who is not willing to hear, and in no case to him who finds faults in me. He who is offering the highest love to me preaches the most profound gospel of Bhagavad Gita among my devotees and shall come to me alone. There is no doubt about it. Among men, there is none who does me a more loving service than he, nor shall anyone be dear to me on the entire globe than him. Whoever studies this sacred dialogue of ours in the form of Bhagavad Gita, by him too shall I be worshipped with jnana of knowledge. Such is my conviction. A man who listens the Holy Gita with the reverence, being free from the malice, he too with the liberation from all sins shall reach the proprietor's world of the pious and righteousness. Have you, O Arjuna, heard this gospel of Gita attentively? And has your delusion born of ignorance been destroyed, O Dhananjaya? Arjuna said, Krishna, by your grace my delusion has been destroyed, and I have gained the wisdom. I am free of all the doubts. I shall do your bidding. Sanjay said, Thus I heard the mysterious and thrilling conversation between Sri Krishna and the high-souled Arjuna. Having been blessed with the divine vision by the grace of Sri Vyasa, I heard in person this supremely ecstatic gospel from Lord of Yoga, Sri Krishna himself, imparting it to Arjuna. Remembering over and over that sacred and mystic conversation between Bhagwan Sri Krishna and Arjuna, O King, I rejoice again and yet again. Remembering also again and again that most wonderful form of Sri Krishna, great is my wonder, and rejoice over and over again. Whenever and wherever there is Bhagwan Sri Krishna, Lord of Yoga, wherever there is Arjuna, the wielder of Gandhiv bow, goodness, victory, glory, and unfailing righteousness will surely be there. Such is my conviction. Such is my conviction. Thus, in the Upanishad, sung by Lord, the science of Brahma, the scripture of Yoga, the dialogue between Sri Krishna and Arjuna ends the final 18th chapter entitled The Yoga of Liberation Through the Path of Knowledge and Self-Surrender. Om Tat Sat. With this, we have ended the chapter 18 as well as the entire book of Bhagavad Gita. Throughout the series, all those great men I gave an example, be it old or young, be it rich or poor, be it a freedom fighter or the most richest person on the planet, be it Mahatma Gandhi or even Swami Vivekananda, as well as Gautam Buddha. All these great men were inspired at one instance of their life. That instance changed the entire course of their life just in a mere fraction. Such is a miracle of awareness. It's this awareness that Krishna talks about in detail in Bhagavad Gita, which we just finished. I hope these 18 episodes, these 18 chapters enlighten you to the path of glory, liberation, and self actualization. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.